take it there? Well, there are indications that Citigroup is thinking to relocate from London to Frankfurt. Now, it seems after Brexit, more and more companies are leaving the UK. Is it that Frankfurt has become more important now?
Well, already here in Germany, Frankfurt is always considered the financial capital, since our, political capital is Berlin. But very interestingly, there are about 220 banks and financial institutions in London. 59 have already said that they are considering to leave the UK because of Brexit, and 18 seem to be interested even to move to Frankfurt. Just today we are getting inside information, it has not been confirmed by Citigroup Bank yet, that the US bank is thinking to relocate their headquarters from London here to Frankfurt. Two reasons. On the one hand, infrastructure here is very good, with the big hub, Frankfurt International Airport, and also, of course, the European Central Bank is here in Frankfurt. And also, when you talk about prices, I was just looking online. Frankfurt is really gaining with luxury departments, and when you want to get a luxury 120 meter square apartment, you will probably pay the enormous amount of 3,500 euros per month. Lots of money, at least here for Germany. But when you compare this, for example, with London, that's sometimes what you pay there during just 1 week. So this also is another reason that's making Frankfurt very attractive. When you talk to locals, I can tell you they are not so excited about that. There is not a lot of space here in Frankfurt. Already rent here is very expensive. So mostly because of that, renting prices are actually going to go up even more. And that's what I can tell you from the local perspective is not making people here very happy at my end.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Daniel. We'll sure keep an eye on all the market news coming out from Europe. Enjoy the rest of the day. We'll move on now to the U.S., where stock index futures pointing to a relatively flat open as investors' attention shifted to the bumper pack of earnings set to come out today. Now, in earnings news, Bank of America and Goldman Sachs, Johnson & Johnson and IBM are some of the major names set to report. Our investors will also be gearing up for a slew of data, including import prices and the business leaders survey, both due out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. The housing market index and Treasury International capital data will follow this at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. each. And in Asia, market sentiment there was dampened today as the dollar dived on headlines related to stalled efforts to reform U.S. health care. Japan's benchmark Nikkei 225 index slid 0.59%, and South Korea's Kospi edged up 0.04%. The Australian ASX 200 fell 1.18%, driven by broader losses across most sub-indices. The heavily weighted financial sub-index was down 1.69%. The Hang Seng index reversed earlier gains to edge down 0.06%. Mainland markets closed higher a day after falling on what some have termed Black Monday. The Shanghai Composite rose 0.33% and the Shenzhen Composite advanced 0.59%. And back here in Nigeria, of course, reactions have continued to trail Nigeria's government plans to increase the levels of tax collection by offering an interest-free window of immunity on unpaid dues until the end of this year. The government plans to increase its overall tax to GDP ratio to 15% by 2020 from 6%. As the country grapples with a fall in revenue due to lower prices for its crude oil.
In an effort to raise revenue for a cash-strapped economy, Nigeria says it will give tax evaders a chance to make payments retrospectively. Africa's largest economy is in the second year of a recession brought on by low oil prices. Crude sales make up 2/3 of national revenue, and the government is seeking to boost its income from non-oil sources. The Finance Ministry launched a scheme in June to give evaders immunity from prosecution penalty charges and interest if they regularize their tax status between July the 1st and December the 31st, 2017. But in Africa's most populous nation of 180 million inhabitants, where 80% of the workforce is employed in the informal sector, analysts say this will be an uphill struggle.
Right now, we don't even have the infrastructure, need the data to actually fit through that. So what we are basically doing with taxation is that we're still playing on the edges, and we're going to tax the guys we know, the guys who do above the table businesses and who are in the formal sector. We are going to tax them to death because they are the only people we know. But there are countless others out there in the informal sector whose data we're not capturing. So we cannot even determine how to move forward regarding appropriate taxation.
Last year, authorities said they had hunted down 700,000 firms that have never paid taxes. Economists have long criticized the low levels of tax in Nigeria. Taxes account for 6% of Nigeria's gross domestic product, but the government is keen to boost its revenues. Jonathan Okoli has been selling lace and fabrics for the past 15 years. He says he's always paid his taxes, but he feels they are not spent efficiently by the government.
When it rains, you will see the way the whole places will get flooded as if they've not been doing anything on it. And you can see they will collect money all the time on this same road. Do it like 5 times in a year, and it's still like that.
Corruption is also seen as a major problem that could cost Nigeria 37% of its gross domestic product by 2030 if not tackled. And that's according to a report by PricewaterhouseCoopers.
There can be much more fundamental changes that government can make in terms of even cutting its own overhead and reducing the cost of governance. That can start to make sense in the immediate, so that we can then push all of the funds that would have been saved from recurrent to capital projects, and we may not entirely need to borrow. But we first have to discover, a very great way to efficiency first, and reduction, of cost of governance before we can even start talking about debt, accessing debt instruments in order to be able to fund development.
The government has previously announced plans to increase luxury goods tax to 15% from 5%.
We'll take a quick break and we'll be back in a moment. Stay with us.